What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show, as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as USC 5-0 for the first time since 2015 and first time in the Brad Keller era. Is this the start of something special for the women of Troy? And how about TCU building off of that win over Penn State and knocking off UCLA not once, but twice? What is going on in Westwood, and can UCLA get it together? Also, how about Arkansas State upending Missouri for their first ever ranked win? Who has that on their bingo card? And Utah is still looking pretty good. Nebraska just continued to dominate. Kentucky took down Penn State in Penn State's home opener and banner raiser match. Also, we have some high school volleyball to discuss, as we have quite a number of notable matchups for this week. Also, how about Italy winning the FIVB World Championship on the women's side? This week is the men's side. And also, how about some ACC action, as we have the last tournament being held in Laguna Beach. Hand me a volleyball. Set net. Sometimes there is volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. iSports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at iSports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 315 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube, Twitch, and X. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We are trying to reach 500 subscribers, and with your help, we could definitely make it happen. So thank you for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. For the last 11 years, might I add. Thank you again to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point. And well, it's also on TikTok as well. So, and you could also follow me personally as well at Teran Rodriguez 1. So hold on, just trying to switch things up, get rid of this. Perfect. And then just go back to Set Points, and then here's Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram as well at @set_point_ISR, and also follow Set Point on TikTok as well at @set_point_IE. I need to start updating that a little bit more, so I promise you I'll be cooking more when it comes to TikTok. So I promise you I won't let that rot. All right, now that with all that being said, let's get on into the volleyball action as Brian Francione, the man, the myth, the legend, is here. He says, good evening, Teran. Thank you, Brian, for popping into the chat room. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. All right, so now let's recap week 2 of the NCAA women's volleyball season. And week 2 started on Tuesday, contrary to what it believes. Week 2 actually started off with a couple of ranked matches. You had number 12 Florida taking on South Florida, and unlike the football team, the women's volleyball team actually took down South Florida, as Florida took down South Florida in 4. Nothing more needs to be said when it comes to this. I had a feeling Florida would pick up the win. Now, I will also just say South Florida is a pretty solid team. They hung tough against Florida, but let's be honest, this is Florida Gators we're talking about. They weren't going to lose that easy. They weren't going to have a letdown following their win over Pitt. And they had another week to also prepare for this as well. So there was no rust by any means. I can't really say the same for UCLA. So the number 19 Bruins fell to Pepperdine on the road. So if you all remember, their season kicked off the day before against Long Beach State, where they outlasted Long Beach State on the road in 5. This time around, they weren't able to beat Pepperdine. Pepperdine took them down in 4. Now, for those that are wondering, yes, UCLA, we can give UCLA a little bit of a pass. They're still trying to figure things out. PK Kong, from what I'm hearing, is actually hurt. I don't know the whereabouts of her injury, and that was one of the biggest regrets I had in terms of not asking Alfie Reft about, whether it was off camera or on camera. But regardless, this was kind of a weird loss, if you ask me. Pepperdine deserved to win. They're actually a pretty solid team. They've got most of their team back from last year. Maggie Bauer was pretty solid for them as well. So all in all for Pepperdine, this kind of proves that Pepperdine is a pretty solid team, mainly in the West Coast Conference. I don't think they're going to be winning a lot of championships going. I don't think they're going to be winning they're a contender to like win the national championship, but still a pretty solid win for them. For UCLA, well, let's just say it's kind of going to get worse more than it's going to get better. But that's for a little bit later. Moving on to Wednesday, we had Texas taking down Rice in 4. Long story short, Rice took the first set against Texas, and then Texas took that personally, and Texas wound up winning the next 3 sets. So the first set, I think, was the first set was all obviously close, but I just think that Texas being in a big environment just kind of, I wouldn't say gave them a little bit of a shiver, but I will say I think it just kind of rattled them a little bit. Plus, taking down Wisconsin, I think maybe kind of gave them a little bit of a big head or a little bit of a hangover, but Texas was able to regroup and recuperate, so nothing too big when it came to them. Then we had number 15 Kansas taking down Bowling Green in 4. Well, what a surprise. A match that didn't go 5 for Kansas, which I'm surprised they even needed to take. They allowed the other team to take a set off them. But Bowling Green is a solid team. If you remember, Bowling Green made the NIVC championship match last year. So I think for Kansas, they kind of got a little bit of a challenge from Bowling Green, but honestly, they're Kansas. They're a top 15 team, and they were able to stand on business for the most part. Then we had another upset. We had number 23 Georgia Tech knocking off number 17 Purdue in 4. Now, if you remember last week's show, I was not high on Purdue. I am not high on Purdue by any means this year. They lost way too much to graduation and let alone the transfer portal. And honestly, I just thought that they just don't stick out to me. I think there are many teams better than Purdue. I thought Georgia Tech was very good in this matchup. I was very impressed with how Georgia Tech pulled off the win at Purdue, mind you. So never easy to win on the road against Purdue, but Georgia Tech did that. And I feel maybe Georgia Tech is being a little slighted. But more on that a little bit later. Thursday, we had number 8 Wisconsin taking down UC Davis in straight sets. Davis in the first 2 sets, they hung tough with Wisconsin, but they just could not take that set against the Badgers. So a solid effort from UC Davis, which I think is kind of a running theme when it comes to some of these Big West Conference teams. And the Big West Conference just shows that the Big West Conference is so underrated. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if I have West Coast bias. I'm just going to say it right now. The Big West is so underrated. Y'all need to put some respect on their name. But I digress. Next up, we had Texas A&M sweeping number 10 Texas A&M sweeping number 21 Utah. Well, Texas A&M is definitely worthy of the top 10 status because Utah is not a bad team by any means. So Logan Lipnicki and the Aggies just continue to do their thing, and this is definitely a good team. Now, for Utah, they kind of got their first true test. I know they played Dayton the previous weekend, but I just thought that this matchup against Texas A&M was just a little bit too much for them. And honestly, I kind of had a feeling they were going to lose this one, but for Texas A&M, they're still a good team, and Utah is still having a solid start to the year. No shame in losing to a team that is led by a coach who has ties with USA Volleyball, who is part of the USA Volleyball program, and a possible future Olympian in Logan Lipnicki. So there you have it. Then number 11, SMU took down Washington in 4. I mean, I don't know what's really going on with Washington. I think Washington is better than some of these losses give them credit for. I know they got reverse swept by Northern Colorado, and then they beat Colorado State in 5. But I just don't understand. I think we need to give Washington a little bit of a break. I mean, they did take a set off of SMU, and I'll give credit to Washington. They're scheduling some tough opponents. Now, is Northern Colorado kind of in that echelon of tough opponents? I don't know. But honestly, Washington, I think, will be fine. I mean, they did lose quite a bit to the transfer portal and graduation, but I think they should be fine going forward. Then you had number 15 Kansas taking down number 23 Georgia Tech in 4. Not too surprising. I mean, it's more surprising to see Kansas not going 5 more so than them beating a team that's ranked. So good job to Kansas. Georgia Tech, look, Georgia Tech is a good team, but again, they just don't have the athletes like they did with Julia Bergman, Bianca Bertolino and Mariana Brambilla and so on and so forth, or Tamara Otene. So I think Georgia Tech is a good team, but I don't see them vying for the ACC championship. Can I see them vying for a spot in the NCAA tournament? Of course. I just don't think they're the Georgia Tech of years past. And then we had probably the biggest upset on Thursday. We had Arkansas State taking down Missouri in 5. This certainly was not on my bingo card, but Sunbelt Funbelt taking down an SEC team was just absolutely bonkers. Arkansas State was down 2-1 after 3 sets, but then they were able to take the 4th set 25-22, and they took the 5th set 15-11 to win the match. For Arkansas State, they were led by Caitlin Whitlock, who had 19 kills as well as 18 digs. That was pretty darn good on her behalf. And then Deidreana Call had 12 kills, and then Devin Lewis had 13 kills. So all in all, it was a big win for Arkansas State. Missouri was led by Kaylin Alexander, who had 14 kills and 14 digs. Tyra Ariel had 12 kills. Reagan Haith had 11 kills, and then Kimani Johnson had 10 kills. Now, the big thing for Missouri is that they hit 209, but they allowed Arkansas State to hit 287, which is very surprising. Like, I did not expect that by any means. Like, you can't allow a team to hit 287. I don't care where this match was held. This just felt weird in my opinion, but a good win, very good win for Arkansas State. That's their first ever ranked win. So you got to give hats off to Arkansas State for pulling off that win. Then we had a bunch of 5-set matches. We had Purdue, number 17, Purdue knocked off Bowling Green in 5. Again, I'm not high on Purdue by any means. I think they're overrated in my opinion. That's no disrespect to Purdue. I just think that there are plenty of teams that are better than Purdue and that are more deserving to jump Purdue. Then you had number 18, BYU outlasting Northern Colorado in 5. Excuse me for one. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze, but number 18 BYU knocked off Northern Colorado in 5. Northern Colorado is actually one of the more better non-power 4 teams in my opinion. So them going 5 with BYU isn't too surprising. I think BYU is still kind of trying to pick up the pieces. I'm interested to see what they do this week. So it's a good win for BYU. Character win, if you want my honest opinion. I don't think it's anything to write home about. But for BYU, they're chosen to finish first in the Big 12. I want to see more from this BYU team. And then we had number 20, Baylor knock off Northwestern in 5. Northwestern had that great 3-0 weekend in San Diego or La Jolla, but I think this is kind of where the buck stopped. I will say, though, them pushing Baylor to 5 is pretty darn good. Unfortunately, Baylor is just Baylor. I just think Baylor is just a little bit better, and Northwestern, unlike the other Big Ten teams, and this is no disrespect to Northwestern, they just don't have the horses to keep up with them. And again, no disrespect to Northwestern personally. I just think that they're kind of in a conference where there's just a lot of teams better than them. But it's still a good effort against Baylor. I just think that Baylor is just Baylor. Then on Friday, we had Nebraska sweeping Wright State. No surprise there. And then number 4, Kentucky took down number 5, Penn State in straight sets at Penn State. So before the match, there was this big breaking news that Izzy Stark actually was going to step away from volleyball to focus on her mental health. And oh man, I was elsewhere. I had my personal job, but I will say this news caught me off guard. I was just surprised by this. And if you saw my Instagram story, what I said was this was a courageous thing that she did. And honestly, I commend her for it. I wish her nothing but the best. But this was just such big breaking news. Remember, this is last year's National Player of the Year, and she's basically stepping away from volleyball to focus on her mental health. So I don't know what's going on there, but man, that's such a big blow to Penn State. And someone actually called me late at night. God bless this person. I'm going to be anonymous when it comes to this. This person called me at, I think it was like 2 a.m. late at their place. This person, I think, was from the East Coast, and it was like close to like 11 my time when he called me, and we talked for a little bit about what this means for Penn State. Well, for starters, Penn State's been kind of on a little bit of a downward spiral. I mean, they lost to Arizona State in 4, they lost to TCU in 5, and then they lose to Kentucky on their home floor on championship banner night in straight sets. That's a little bit surprising if you ask me. So I don't know what's going on in Happy Valley, but it's certainly not happy times for Penn State. So they got to figure something out, which they did eventually. But man, Penn State is just going through it. And it just means that, I mean, I will say Penn State, this isn't ultimately too groundbreaking. I just think that Nebraska is pretty much going to win the Big Ten going forward. I think Nebraska has the Big Ten on lock. I just don't see how Penn State, I mean, they still have Kennedy Martin and Jordan Hopp and a bunch of other talented players on their team, the Jerviciuses and Maggie Mendelson. I just don't think that they're going to stack up well against Nebraska. So we'll see what happens with Penn State going forward. But honestly, I now have raised a lot of eyebrows. And what's even weirder is that if you go on to Izzy Stark's Instagram, there's no signing of Penn State anything. Like this, I don't want to over speculate, but this may be the indicator that Izzy Stark might be transferring. Again, don't want to over speculate anything. And we all got to give Izzy Stark her space. But I feel there might be a transferring. The writing might be on the wall, but we shall see. Going through most of these matches, you had Arizona State taking down Florida Gulf Coast in 4. Not too surprising. I mean, Florida Gulf Coast isn't too bad of a team. It's just that Arizona State is on a roll, even though they just recently lost to Pitt before that. Then you had Wisconsin sweeping Chicago State, Pitt sweeping Pepperdine, SMU sweeping Northern Iowa, Creighton taking down San Diego in 4. I'll get into Creighton a little bit later. You had number 14 Minnesota sweeping Vanderbilt, number 17 Purdue outlasting Kansas in a 5-setter. Oh my God, another 5-setter for Kansas. Who would have thunk? And then you had number 16 Missouri getting their lick back against Arkansas State, beating them in 5. Number 18 BYU taking out Wichita State in 4. You had number 24 TCU sweeping number 19 UCLA. That was a big surprise. More on that a little later. You had number 20 Baylor taking down sweeping St. Mary's. I mean, Tyler Hildebrand loves to schedule tough competition. I mean, he did that at Long Beach State when he scheduled Nebraska and whatnot. So not surprising to see a Tyler Hildebrand team taking on a big-time Tyler Hildebrand coach team taking on a ranked team like Baylor. Then you had number 22 USC outlasting UC Santa Barbara in 5. This was a fun one right here. And man, USC really kicked it up a notch in set 5. It was to the point where USC wound up winning the 5th set 15-13. But more on USC a little later. You also had Western Kentucky sweeping Dayton. All right, we all need to remember that Western Kentucky is still a pretty solid team from the Conference USA, and Western Kentucky isn't a bad team. I think they kind of just fell off once Paige Briggs-Romine, kind of graduated and whatnot. So I think we could say Western Kentucky is kind of back, but I want to see more from Western Kentucky. Circling the wagons back to the TCU-UCLA matchup. All right, this one was kind of surprising, but you got to remember TCU had that big win against Penn State, but they did find out that Jaden Gibson is out for the season, and man, that's a tough blow for TCU. But for losing one of its top players, they really socked it to UCLA. Now, UCLA, I'm just going to say this. I don't know what's going on with them. I know PK Kong is out. I know they're still trying to figure things out, but now at what point do we start to be overly concerned for UCLA? It just doesn't make sense. I don't get how UCLA just keeps finding ways to just foobar all their opportunities when they have so much talent on their team. I hope this doesn't carry over to Big West or Big Ten conference play, because if it does, they might not make the NCAA tournament, but we shall see. And then another kind of interesting result was San Jose State outlasting Hawaii in 5. Now, Hawaii was 0-3 going into this matchup. They dropped the first 2 sets. I think it was the second set they had a chance to win, but unfortunately San Jose State kind of used a late 3-0 run to take that second set. Hawaii did battle back to force a fifth set, but lost in the fifth set 15-13. Again, this is Hawaii we're talking about. They always start slow because they always schedule stiff competition, or they just or they just aren't they just don't have things figured out right away. But Hawaii will be fine. I think for Hawaii, we all got to remember that they don't peak early on in the season, with the exception of a little bit of last year. But they peak a lot more once Big West Conference play gets underway, or when it comes to being close to Big West Conference play. So don't hit the panic button, Hawaii. Let's not throw out any hot takes or anything crazy and whatnot. So please just hold on to your words and whatnot. So don't panic. Anyway, so jumping over to Saturday, we had Kentucky sweeping New Hampshire, SMU taking out Stony Brook in 4, Creighton outlasting UC Santa Barbara in 5. This was kind of an interesting matchup because Santa Barbara was up 2-1 in the match, just like they were against USC. Unfortunately, unfortunately for UC Santa Barbara, Creighton being Creighton, they were able to muscle their way and take the next 2 sets and win the match. You had number 14, Minnesota, beating Lipscomb in straight sets. You had BYU sweeping Incarnate Word. Utah swept Utah State. Number 22, USC outlasted San Diego in a thriller. Now, the fifth set, USC was actually down by as many as 5. They were staring down match point, 14-12. San Diego led. But then they got a block to make it 14-13. Gala Trubint got an ace to make it 14-14. And then USC just got 2 straight kills to end the match. Very clutch win right there for the Trojans. I'll just say it right now. I feel this USC team is so underrated, and you're about to find out a little bit later. But circling the wagons back to this matchup, number 24 TCU took down number 19 UCLA in 4. So back-to-back wins over TCU. There's a reason why I picked TCU as my team of the week for week 2. Look, TCU, I think we need to start putting some respect on their name. No Jaden Gibson. They beat UCLA twice. And UCLA has all this talent like Mariana Singletary, Zayna Meyer, Lola Schumacher. The list goes on and on. I don't get how UCLA just doesn't compute. I don't care if UCLA is it has not yet to play a home game. I do not. UCLA with all that talent should be no worse than 3-1. They should have at least taken one match against TCU. And if anyone's kicking themselves, it's Long Beach State because, man, if Long Beach State had beaten UCLA, that could have fed a lot of families, but they just didn't run the middle. Speaking of Big West Conference teams, Hawaii took down Utah Valley in straight sets on Saturday. And then I guess it's worth noting on Friday, Long Beach State took down Santa Clara in 4 in a rematch of the 2019 NIVC matchup, which I was actually in attendance to back when I was a student at Long Beach State. And I guess it's worth noting that Long Beach State took down San Francisco in straight sets on Saturday. So there you go. Jumping over to Sunday, we had number 1 Nebraska sweeping Cal. No surprise there. We had number 3 Louisville taking down Illinois in 4. That's a good little matchup right there. And Louisville, look, Illinois is actually a pretty solid team from what I'm hearing. But Louisville is still Louisville. They're still a fantastic team. And honestly, Louisville wasn't going to lose this. Come on. I mean, they're at home. Like, you think Louisville's going to lose to Illinois? No. Then you had Penn State, number 5 Penn State, finally getting off the mat and taking down New Hampshire in straight sets. Number 7 Arizona State swept LMU. Number 9 Pitt took down Jacksonville in 4. Number 12 Florida swept Ohio State. Number 3 Baylor swept Rice. And that was it for some of the ranked matches. But then we had this big matchup, which was actually on ESPN. We had number 6 Stanford taking on number 2 Texas, and they weren't playing in Gregory Gymnasium. They were playing in the Texas Gymnasium that basketball games were played in. And Texas shattered its attendance record. They had over 10,000 in attendance for this matchup, and it was huge. A 5th set was needed, and Stanford was up by as many as 5 in that 5th set, and the crowd was just dead silent. Fortunately, Ramsey Gary kind of put on the super girl cape, and she was just able to dig Texas out of that deficit. And Texas only needed one match point. They actually dodged a bunch of match points from Stanford, which I thought was pretty commendable. And eventually, Texas was able to take the fifth set 18-16. Texas, let me just tell you all, Texas is back. I mean, I know last year they had the run to the Sweet 16 where they lost to Creighton, but I think this is kind of their revenge tour. Texas, I think, is going to do great things this year, and they're already off to such a great start. And I'm going to be really interested to see what Kentucky Texas is going to be all about when it comes to SEC play. And you also got to remember, there's the SEC tournament. Now, Stanford, if they were a year older in terms of this matchup, maybe they win this one. But the fact that they went 5 with Stanford was the fact that they went 5 with Texas is quite astounding and quite amazing, if you ask me. So I think for Stanford, they still got a lot to learn, but they're starting to improve. If I'm a Stanford fan, I don't hit the panic button. I get it. Stanford is fairly young, new setter, new libero, new everything. But let's be honest, Stanford is going to be just fine. And in this matchup that I went to yesterday, number 22 USC swept number 13 Creighton. This was a very fun match, in my opinion. So first set, Creighton was leading throughout most of the way. They actually led 23-20 late in the set, but then USC rattled off 5 straight points. And oh man, if there was ever a set that Creighton wanted back, that's the set. Same can be said for the second set. I think Creighton was up 21-20, but then USC outscored them 5-1 down the stretch to eventually take the second set 25-22, and then USC just ran away with it in the third set. I know Creighton is a new team. I know it's just Ava Martin and a bunch of other talented players that don't really have the experience like Nora Sis did. But I'm going to be really honest. I did not expect a sweep. Now, USC, in case you don't know, they start 3 freshmen. Taylor Deckard at libero, Reese Messer at setter, and then Abigail Mullen on the pins. That was probably one of the more impressive wins in the Brad Keller era. I get it. Creighton is a whole new team. I did talk to their coach, Brian Rosen. If you didn't see that interview, go check it out on X or Instagram. I got to post that to TikTok as well. But I get it. Creighton had a bunch of injuries and illnesses, and it was just all business because they didn't really get a chance to have fun when it came to being in Southern California. But I just was very surprised that it was just not Creighton's match, especially since USC needed 5 to take down San Diego and UCSB, which UCSB took down San Diego in 4, but a little later on that. But I think we need to start putting USC on the radar. I think USC is a fantastic team, a little on the young side, yes, but this team is looking really fun and dangerous. And Taylor Deckard, in my opinion, might be one of the better freshman liberos in the nation. I mean, there are probably more freshman liberos that I'm probably missing, but Taylor Deckard had such a masterclass performance last night or yesterday in the afternoon. It was just absolutely amazing. It was just outstanding. It was electric. I wanted to see more fans in the stands, but I got to see a few people that I knew. I saw Jeff Nygaard, the USC men's volleyball coach there. I got to see Wes Smith, men's volleyball player at USC. And I also got to meet someone by the name of, Holly McPeak, a former Olympian. And she was actually nice to let me take a selfie with her. So thank you to Holly McPeak as well. I also got to meet Creighton assistant coach Izzy Ashburn, who is a very awesome person. And yes, I wore royal blue. I'm sorry to USC fans. Brad Keller kind of also, he was a little flabbergasted that I wore royal blue. Second time I've worn royal blue when a team wore royal blue. The first time was last Monday when I went to UCLA Long Beach State, and the other coach slighted me for it. But Brad Keller said I was fine. I wanted to wear navy blue, but maybe Creighton was going to bring out navy blue, but I was wrong. Anyway, but yeah, USC looks pretty darn good. I want to see what they can do against the likes of BYU this week. That's going to be a big test. And then following that BYU match, they're back in the Galen Center when they take on LSU twice. That's going to be another fun one. And then they also take on Cal in a former Pac-12 matchup. All right, but that is that right there. There are a couple matches happening. There was College of Charleston beating the Citadel earlier today in 4, and then Michigan State took down Western Michigan in 4 as well. So there you have it. So I know that took 35 minutes, but what can you do? So the ABCA division, the ABCA / Terraflex Division 1 women's volleyball poll for, hold on, I got to switch this up. I put the wrong date. So I'm going to put this 8. Sorry, everybody. There we go. So there you have it. There, the poll for this week. Nebraska is still the outright number 1. No surprise there. Texas is number 2. Kentucky jumped up to number 3 following that win over Penn State. Louisville is 4. Stanford is 5. Wisconsin 6. Pitt 7. Texas A&M 8. Arizona State 9. SMU 10. Florida 11. Penn State 12. Minnesota 13. Purdue 14. TCU 15. USC 16. Kansas 17. Creighton 18. BYU 19, Baylor 20, Georgia Tech 21, Utah 22, Missouri 23, UCLA 24, and North Carolina is now the new number 25. So one that dropped out was Dayton. North Carolina is new to the poll. So TCU, as we all know, they had the biggest jump as they went up 9 spots. USC also went up 6 spots as well, which I think is pretty darn good if you ask me. So... and then we also had the biggest drop being Penn State, but hopefully for their sake, they can figure it out. I mean, I want them to figure it out, but they got a lot in their dish, but we'll see. Anyway, so that is that right there for the poll. I'm still wondering why UCLA is still ranked. No offense to Alfie Reft and his team, but UCLA, you lost to an unranked team. You needed 5 to take down Long Beach State, and you lost twice to the number 24 team. I don't know how. I don't know why the committee still has UCLA ranked. I would have maybe put UCLA at 26. So again, no disrespect to UCLA personally, but honestly, I think someone might have messed up in these polls. But I digress. Anyway, so week 3 of the NCAA women's volleyball season, starting on Tuesday, Penn State hosts Bucknell. Number 6 Stanford takes on number 16 Missouri. So this is kind of this. Or I'm sorry, no, it's not number 16 Missouri. It's actually number 23 Missouri. So NCAA website's got to fix that. So Stanford, Missouri, that's going to be a fun one. There's going to be a lot of ACC versus SEC matchups. So if you're wondering why this whole ACC versus SEC is kind of going to be a big deal, and it is a big deal. Then you have number 10 Texas A&M taking on number 8 Texas A&M taking on number 10 SMU in a top 10 matchup between ACC versus SEC. That's going to be a fun one. Number 8 Wisconsin hosts Milwaukee. Number 12 Florida takes on North Carolina. That's going to be another fun one. Number 23 Georgia Tech takes on Tennessee. That's another great matchup right there. And I'm sorry, Georgia Tech is not 23. They are 21. So, yeah, the NCAA has got to update its website. I never have this problem with NCAA men's volleyball, but I digress. So that's that for Tuesday. Jumping to Wednesday, we have Kentucky versus Pitt in a top 10 matchup on Wednesday. Texas, Louisville, that's going to be pure cinema. Top 5 matchup right there. And you got Texas A&M versus TCU, another nice little SEC versus ACC matchup. And that's pretty much the headline matchups for Wednesday. Thursday, you've got Arizona State versus Texas State. That's a sneaky good matchup. Kansas versus Florida Gulf Coast, another sneaky good matchup. Missouri has 2 matches, Rhode Island and Wyoming. BYU, USC. I want to see what USC can actually do against BYU. Now, BYU is known for being notoriously or nefariously tough, but I will also just say I want to see what BYU can do outside of Smith Fieldhouse. And then number 24, UCLA takes on UTEP. UCLA is going to be in Texas throughout all of this week. If UCLA loses at least once to any of these teams, I don't want them anywhere near the top 25. And then TCU plays Wyoming as well, so you have that right there. And then Friday, you have number 1 Nebraska taking on Utah. That's going to be a fun one. Louisville, Creighton. That's going to be another fascinating matchup. Utah State, Stanford. You have that. Incarnate Word hosts Arizona State. You got Georgia Tech, Wisconsin. That's going to be a pretty good matchup. Pitt, Wright State. Those are 2 NCAA tournament teams. Kansas, Green Bay. Minnesota, South Florida. Missouri, TCU. Again, another ACC versus SEC match. Oh, wait, no, that's SEC Big Ten. I'm sorry. Then you got BYU playing at LMU. Okay, LMU is the team I want to see pull off a big win. It's the battle of former West Coast Conference opponents. I know LMU did lose quite a bit to graduation, but I want to see what they could do against BYU. And I want to see what BYU can do outside of Smith Fieldhouse, like I mentioned. And then you got UCLA, Oral Roberts. Again, UCLA has to win this one. I can't imagine them losing to Oral Roberts. Then USC plays Western Michigan. Dayton plays South Dakota State, even though Dayton's not ranked anymore. And then TCU takes on Rhode Island. And also on Friday, sneaky good matchup, Long Beach State, Oregon. I want to see what Oregon can actually do, because they've been actually cutting it close against some teams. I remember they went 5 with Colorado State, and they almost got reverse swept, but almost doesn't count. I want to see what they could do against Long Beach State, and I want to see what Long Beach State can do, because they went 2-1 last week. They lost to Portland State, which did not have any wins. That was not a good loss right there. I could maybe classify that as an early bad loss. I know Portland State isn't – it's too early to judge Portland State, but still. And, yeah, that's it for Friday's matches. Jumping to Saturday, you have Nebraska, Grand Canyon, Louisville, Northern Iowa. Nice little rematch of the round of 32 matchup right there. Do not sleep on that matchup. Then you have Pitt, Ohio, Kentucky, SMU, Creighton, Rice, Minnesota, Dayton. That's another good matchup. Purdue, Houston. Want to see Houston get back to its NCAA tournament ways. Then you have Kansas, South Dakota, BYU, Western Michigan, UCLA, Texas Southern. Yeah, UCLA should go undefeated this week. And then you have Utah, Drake to round off all the matchups regarding ranked teams. And then Sunday, you've got Arizona State, Texas. That's a pretty darn good matchup right there. That's going to really test Arizona State, though. Then you got Kentucky, Houston, SMU, Purdue in a ranked versus ranked matchup. Stanford, UC Davis in the battle of NorCal. You have Florida, Baylor in a nice ranked versus ranked matchup. Northern Iowa, Creighton. That's another good matchup right there. 2 NCAA teams that normally make the big dance. Minnesota, South Dakota State. You've got Dayton, South Florida. I want to see what Dayton can do now that they're no longer ranked. Auburn, Florida State's a sneaky good matchup. I want to see what Florida State has in store for us, but we'll see. Tennessee, St. John's might also be a sneaky good matchup, even though St. John's kind of got their bell rung against Hawaii last night. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But that'll do it for some of the more notable matchups for this week in NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 3. Again, lots of ACC versus SEC matchups happening. I was going to go to Long Beach State, Oregon this Friday, but unfortunately, duty calls for me. I might be able to go to Long Beach State's match against San Diego State, but again, we'll have to wait and see. I think I should be able to attend. I don't really see any other obligations getting in my way, but time will tell. All right, but that's that for the NCAA women's volleyball side of things. We're actually going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got some NCAA men's volleyball to discuss, a little bit of some AVP, a little bit of some FIVB action in the World Championship, and some high school girls volleyball. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Lentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Fast Break in the Neutral Zone, and so much more. I actually do a show with Brian Francione, my good man, who is just in the chat room. But there's a lot of a variety in terms of our shows. We actually just debuted a new show, Yay or Nay, which I think is pretty awesome. That's actually hosted by Ricky K. But more on that a little bit later. Right now, let's continue on with some more volleyball action. So we're actually going to discuss a little bit of some NCAA men's volleyball. So this news was actually just released today. So this was courtesy of the AVCA. So they actually, this is actually massive news. So the NCAA tournament is now being expanded from 9 teams to 12 teams starting in the 2026 season. So this is massive, and I only wish this could have come a little bit earlier, just because, oh man, poor USC and poor UC Irvine and poor McKendree as well. They could have really used an expansion when it comes to the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Championship. So the NCAA announced today that the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Championship field will expand to 12 teams starting next spring, in other words, 2026. The initiative for bracket expansion has been funded and goes into effect for the 2026 championship with a 12-team field. The format will consist of 4 non-predetermined regional sites with 3 teams competing at each site. 2 teams will compete in a regional round, with the 3rd team receiving a bye, and will compete against the winner in a regional final match. Winners from each of the regional final sites will advance to compete at the final site. The AVCA commends the NCAA committee and all those that work diligently to bring this expansion to life. Said Jamie Gordon, "We are proud to have supported the conversations that helped shape this outcome, which will create greater opportunities for student athletes and programs nationwide." So what does this mean? So this could mean many things. Will there be more at-large berths? Will there be more automatic qualifiers from other conferences, like the ECC, because we already have the NEC as a new automatic qualifier. And then we obviously have the Big West, and the MPSF, and the EIVA, and the MIVA, and so on and so forth. And then obviously the SWAC. What, the SWAC conference? It's the conference that Fort Valley State plays in, but a SIAC conference. That's the SIAC conference. But we have all those automatic qualifiers. Will there be more automatic qualifiers? Will there be more at-larges? Because the at-larges, I think we just need more at-larges, because 2 at-larges just is not enough when it comes to the NCAA men's volleyball tournament. We need more of those. Like I said, teams like USC, UC Irvine, McKendree, BYU, they all got left out, and it really sucks. Ohio State even got left out. And imagine if they had advanced to the Final Four, where they could have hosted the entire NCAA tournament, or they could have played in an NCAA tournament match. That would have been massive for them. But unfortunately, that was just not the case. And it's, a case of a little too late, but thankfully we could start building for it right now. But again, we're still wondering on if it's going to be more at-large spots or if it's going to be more automatic qualifier spots. But this is a massive step in the NCAA men's volleyball realm. Now we just need to get a official AVCA show tailored to NCAA men's volleyball, like there is with 6 rotations in NCAA women's volleyball. I had to throw that out there. But yeah, my initial reaction is this. It's great for the sport of NCAA men's volleyball. I'm glad they are expanding the tournament field. I really like the idea of regionals. This is going to be really fun. But but overall, it's just a wait and see on what's going to be happening going forward. And I'm excited for this, and I can't wait to see what this has in store for us when it comes to NCAA men's volleyball. I'm going to be honest, I'm really just, after the first 3 weeks of NCAA women's volleyball, I want to see more from NCAA men's volleyball. I want to see, first and foremost, I know it's tough, but I want to see more nationally televised matches. I know one match, UCLA Penn State from the First Point Collegiate Challenge, got put on ESPNU, but that was only one match. I know the national championship got put on ESPN too, but honestly, we need to see more nationally televised matches. Like, why can't they get put on FS1 or Fox or ESPN? Like, I'm sure a lot of other sporting events, with all due respect to them, are not more interesting than NCAA men's volleyball. I'm just saying. And then also, we need to see more like NCAA men's volleyball events, like the First Serve Challenge for NCAA women's volleyball. That was a real go-getter. I know we didn't really get to see too many teams, but it was a 4-day event, and we got to see quite a number of high-level talent from a bunch of teams. And they were all exciting matches. There were no dud matches and whatnot, with the lone exception of like Nebraska-Stanford, but let's be honest, Stanford was very young and Nebraska was experienced and very, very talented. But yeah, we need to see more like NCAA men's volleyball events. I mean, again, there's First Point Collegiate Challenge, but that's just one event, and that's to get like more club volleyball teams involved and the young kids involved. We need to see more events tailored to more NCAA to NCAA men's volleyball. So that's just my thing. That's why we need to start growing NCAA men's volleyball. We need more The NCAA just needs more resources for men's volleyball like it has for NCAA women's volleyball. But as someone from the AVCA told me, the NCAA isn't just going to put more resources into it, which sucks. But we shall see. I mean, this whole expansion of the tournament is a step in the right direction. I think it can lead to something good. But again, we'll see. All right, that is that for that little bit of NCAA men's volleyball news. Let's jump to some AVP action. So this is going to be the last week of the AVP. I can't believe it's already here. The AVP has its final tournament, which is a contender event. It's the Laguna Open, going to be held in Laguna Beach. And it's going to be held on the Friday and Saturday. Oh no, Friday through Sunday. So I'm guessing Friday is like the qualification day, and then Saturday I think is like the elimination round. And I think this might be double elimination, and then Sunday is Championship Sunday. All right, so it's the 70th annual Laguna Open, which returns to Laguna Main Beach. It's an AVP contender event, which I think is awesome. So Sunday starts at 7:30 a.m. and then, oh God, I only wish that didn't like get in the way of like my other plans. Maybe I would attend. But the women's championship the women's final is at 12:30 p.m. and then the men's final is at 1:30 p.m. and then I guess there's this Battle of the Beaches final. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much that for the Laguna Open, and it's free. Just bring a chair, and I gotta find a way to, maybe get a credential to this event. I mean, I should work out for me. I'll probably miss like the quarterfinals and maybe some of the semifinals. I'll be missing. Yeah, I'll probably be missing the quarterfinals, but the semifinals I can attend, and then the championship match I can attend unless something pops up. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, Friday and Saturday, the whole thing starts at 7:30 all the way up to 5 p.m. 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then same thing on Saturday, and then Sunday is going to be a 7:30 a.m. start all the way up to the championship match, which will be at 12:30 and 1:30 respectively. So we don't have any lists, but I imagine there's going to be a lot of talent. Like maybe I know Sean Cook is confirmed for this. Maybe my boy Avery Drost, former Set Point guest, but I can't really preview this just because the AVP just sadly does not have any pairs or lists when it comes to this thing. But it is what it is. But yeah, this is the last event for the AVP season of the 2025 AVP season. So gonna feel a little weird without a little AVP, but I think I could use the break from AVP, especially since the league championship just ended a couple weeks ago. So there you have it right there. So let's move on from the AVP. I'll probably be there, but we'll see. All right, so let's move on to some FIVB World Championship action. So on the women's side, we had the women's championship, which did crown its champion. USA, they actually wound up losing in the quarterfinals to the eventual finalists, Turkey. So where we left off was the 29th, was it? I did the show last Tuesday. So yeah, we're well into September 3rd. So September 3rd is where we last left off. So the quarterfinal, we had Japan taking down Netherlands in 5. Okay, that's not overly surprising. Netherlands, maybe they must have gotten a lot better, because in the friendlies and the Olympics, it didn't really show it all that much, with the exception of that first match. But USA was not at full strength. But Japan, I kind of am not surprised to see them win. I'm a little bit more surprised that Netherlands was able to push them to 5. So great stuff for Netherlands. Unfortunately for Japan, or unfortunately for them, Japan just has too much firepower. And this one was a little surprising, but not all that surprising. Italy took down Poland in straight sets. I'm just going to say this for the 100th time. Italy in women's volleyball is the golden standard. They're just on a tear. I don't know if they lost any matches, but it's actually look-see. So they obviously didn't lose in the round of 16. So Italy, they didn't play on the 27th. Italy took down Belgium in 4. They didn't lose that match. Italy swept Cuba in round 2, and then Italy swept Slovakia. So yeah, Italy, they have not lost a match since the oh god, I'm blanking on it. Not the PVF, but the VNL. They haven't lost since week 2 of the VNL from last year. That's just how much of a tear that Italy is on. So Italy is the golden standard when it comes to international volleyball, or FIVB volleyball. So they're not just the best in the nation, they're the best in the world. And then in the other quarterfinals on the 4th of September, we had Brazil sweeping France. Okay, well, I'll be honest with France. It was great to see them having such a great run in terms of their in terms of this FIVB championship. But when it came down to facing a really good Brazil team, even though they were missing Ana Cristina, it was bound to happen that it was all going to come tumbling down. And then for the final quarterfinal matchup, we saved kind of the best for last. I mean, I feel Japan, Netherlands was better. We had USA versus Turkey, and Turkey was able to take down the US in 4 sets. Now, this is kind of not surprising. I hate to say that when it comes to the US, but let me tell you why USA lost. First of all, Turkey, I got to give a hats off to Turkey. They wound up making the semifinals for the first time in its team's history, which I think is pretty awesome when it comes to making the World Championship. So from what I saw on Twitter or X from TMZ Volleyball, which covers Turkey volleyball and other things internationally volleyball, the preview was there's nothing to fear from the US, which has an inexperienced coach from a changed generation. Our level will dominate the score, which they kind of did, especially in sets 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. As always, Turkey needs to serve well and spread out the attack in the game. Let's not play too slowly. The opponent is physical. It seems like the U.S. does not have any game-changing moves from the bench other than Ali Fronti and Logan Eggleston. And they just said that we just need to watch out for Fronti and that she's a player with high fire. And this was incredibly spot on. And I think Turkey really followed the game plan well. Again, I don't want to say Eric Sullivan might be on the hot seat, but you kind of got to be a little concerned for this because they got a lot of question marks going into the offseason. Catherine Plummer should be back for the team in the near future. She's just kind of doing her own thing in terms of her own personal life. But Catherine Plummer, or Bolden, she'll be back with the U.S. national team in the near future. And I get it. The Olympics aren't for another 3 years. But why not be ready and why not set the standard for winning? Anyway, so for the semifinals, we had Turkey taking down Japan in 4. So Turkey advancing to their first ever world championship is absolutely amazing. The first ever in women's volleyball, which is incredible right there. They definitely have the talent. The talent is 100% there. Their game speed is 100% there. I think for Turkey, they deserve this moment. And the fact that they took down the U.S. and Japan are 2 not easy opponents to take down. And then this semifinal was knock your socks off good. Italy took down Brazil in 5, which was an instant classic, my dudes. And Brazil came really determined because you got to remember, Brazil lost to Italy in the VNL Championship in 4. Brazil was out for revenge, even without Ana Cristina, and they were able to push Italy to the brink, but Italy just had just enough in the tank to pull off the win and advance to the championship or the gold medal match. And then in the bronze medal match, Brazil took down Japan in 5 sets. I get it. Everyone wanted to see the gold medal match right away, but let's be honest with ourselves. When it comes to like international ball, there always has to be bronze medal matches. I get it that the NCAA doesn't do it or any level doesn't really like do it on like the lower levels and whatnot other than Junior Olympics, but still a bronze medal match is a bronze medal match. And this was a very good bronze medal match. And then the gold medal match was just as good as Italy took down Turkey in a barn burner 5-set match. And again, you got to commend what Italy has done. I give a lot of credit to Turkey though, or Turkey. They were absolutely amazing throughout this whole World Championship. There is no shame in them losing to Italy, especially since they pushed Italy to the brink. Unfortunately for them, Italy is just the buzzsaw that everyone comes to know and love. That being said, Turkey has a bright future ahead of them, and I think we all need to watch out for Turkey going forward in women's volleyball. So that is that right there for the FIVB World Championship. Kind of need to skim through that quite a bit quickly, as the FIVB Men's Volleyball World Championship is on Friday the 12th. So I'll be getting more into that a little bit later, but that'll do it for the FIVB World Championship on the women's side. Congratulations to Italy. Bravissimo. Anyway, now let's move on to some high school girls volleyball. It was quite a whirlwind of a week when it came to the high school volleyball realm where I was at. So Redondo Union knocked off Marymount and Mater Dei. Those are two really good programs, and Redondo Union beating them both, especially Mater Dei on the road. That was incredible. Now, Mater Dei did see the return of Laylee Ostavar after she had an ankle sprain, but she's not at 100%. Like, she can only play back row. She can't jump right away, but soon once she comes back to being at full health and once Mater Dei becomes 100% full strength, this Mater Dei team is going to be dangerous. But for right now, every team is kind of going through not being at 100%. But Redondo Union is the real deal. Like, they've got a lot of good players like Abby Zimmerman, Taylor Boyce, the Junk twins, Avery and Addie, Leah Blair, the list goes on and on with this team. Sienna Castillo. This Redondo Union team is very, very good. So do not underestimate Redondo Union at any cost. And then Marymount bounced back from that loss to Redondo and reverse swept Miracosta, which that was a very good win on Marymount's part. I was very impressed by that, especially since the first two sets, Miracosta had most of the momentum, but Marymount just looked so strong. They looked like the team that they were supposed to be. And honestly, Marymount is still a threat to the Southern section. And then kind of an underrated matchup right here, which I talked about last week, Los Alamitos. Okay, this is a team that most people might want to keep their eye out for again. Los Alamitos pulled off two reverse sweeps. Last Tuesday, they reverse swept Edison, which, Edison has a young team. And we can kind of forgive Los Alamitos for kind of looking ahead because that was kind of a trap game. Now, the matchup that I was very impressed with from Los Alamitos was that they reverse swept Newport Harbor on the road, and it was looking grim for Los Alamitos. They were down 0-2. They trailed 21-18 in set 3, and they just turned it around. They outscored Newport Harbor 7-2 to take the third set. They took the fourth set fairly comfortably. Then the fifth set, Newport Harbor was up 10-7. Los Alamitos eventually took the lead at 13-12, and they never gave it back. I think it's safe to say the Griffins are still for real. And don't be surprised if Los Alamitos still is the class of the Sunset League. And maybe they just might stumble their way into Division I. Again, this is a Los Alamitos team that has a lot of good talent, like Caitlin Herwig, who is I think she's top 20 when it comes to Prep Digs, a class of 2027 recruits. They also have Bryn Minter, who's committed to Charleston Southern University. Never had that on my bingo card. And they've got some other talented players as well, like Charlotte Hall, just to name one. And Dave Huber is a fantastic coach. I mean, he's a former set point guest. I don't say that because he's a former guest on the show. He is a really good coach. And for them to pull off a reverse sweep on the road against Newport Harbor, a team that was undefeated going into that match, that's incredible. So bravo to Los Alamitos. They also wound up winning the Whittier tournament for the fourth straight year. So Los Alamitos is on a tear. Don't look now, but the Griffins, they're getting red hot because they've got a couple of big tests this week. And then also in terms of the big volleyball realm, you had San Juan Hills winning the Dave Mose Division I tournament. Now, San Juan Hills, let me just backtrack. So the Dave Mose Division I tournament was kind of the tournament where not a lot of teams were at full strength. Like some of the top teams were kind of missing some of their best stars. John Paul II High School, a team from Texas that had a bunch of pretty good, talented players, they kind of didn't really have the best showing. They finished well outside of the top 8, which I was very disappointed in. I thought they would have done a little bit better, but sometimes that's just how it is. But yeah, just a few players to name that weren't at this tournament. Ireland Real of Santa Margarita, she wasn't there. Even though Santa Margarita did make the final, San Juan Hills kind of took care of them. Megan Hodges did play, unlike the Tesoro tournament, and she was named MVP. She had quite the plethora of amazing help in terms of her team. It wasn't just her carrying the team. She had other help like Whitney Port, Bella Tercios, and so on and so forth. But there were some other key players that some teams were missing, like Jay Sarah. They were even though they finished in the top, they finished tied for third. They were missing Catherine Nowak, who was one of their better players. But Michaela Ziegler really stepped up. Like, she is a different breed, and she was just fantastic for Jay Sarah. She definitely deserved to make all tournament. And Emma Goodrich, the libero for Jay Sarah, was also tough as nails in that quarterfinal match. But speaking of that quarterfinal match, against Newport Harbor was missing Ella Olson as she was battling some soreness. Her shoulder was just shot throughout the entire week. And I don't blame her or Pat Eaton for resting her, because honestly, you'd rather not have her for this one tournament than not have her for at all in terms of the entire season. So there you have it. That's kind of this tournament was kind of the case of some teams were missing some of their top players and so on and so forth. This was kind of the most paradising tournament the Dave Mose tournament has had in the highest division, but I digress. Anyway, so now for some notable high school girls volleyball matches to watch for. So this week you've got number 4 Mater Dei at Miracosta on Tuesday. Excuse me for one quick second. That's going to be a fun one right there. I think Mater Dei Miracosta, it's a rematch of last year's final from 2 years ago. But this is going to be a fun one. Laylee Ostavar, even though she's not at full strength, she'll be taking on fellow class of 2026 member Audrey Flanagan. Those two are going to be duking it out. It's going to be a fun one. I know Mater Dei won't be at full strength, but Miracosta is going to be bringing it. I can already tell you that Miracosta really wants to beat Mater Dei, especially since Mater Dei beat Costa last year in the non-league matchup that they both had. Also on Tuesday, you have Sierra Canyon at Redondo Union. So it's a rematch of the Ann Kang tournament semifinal, where Redondo wound up winning in straight sets 2-0. Now it's a best 3 out of 5 match, and Sierra Canyon is going to have most of its team. Kendall Almarui, the Nebraska middle blocker commit in the class of 2027, she's eligible. McKenna. Oh God, I'm blanking on her name. It's McKenna McIntosh. McKenna McIntosh, the USC commit, is obviously still playing for Sierra Canyon. She's been eligible since the beginning of the season. This one's going to have fireworks. It's the battle of a lot of notable players. A lot of NCAA women's volleyball players of tomorrow, and it's going to be a fun one. Then Wednesday is Cathedral Catholic at Torrey Pines. It's a rematch of the Volleypalooza tournament final, and these two teams love to schedule one another. And this is going to be a fun matchup just because it's the battle of the two San Diego teams, and a lot of these players know one another. Torrey Pines wound up winning the first meeting, but let's see what Cathedral Catholic has in store for everybody. I know they're kind of still picking up the pieces following Kalia Lee transferring to Mater Dei, but they still have a solid team. They've got the Wilson sisters, JoJo and Bailey. They've got Hennessy. I forget. I think it's like something. I think it's like a Kendall Hennessy or something. They've got Allison Zaiduch, who is committed to Santa Clara. This is a Cathedral Catholic team that I think is still pretty darn good. So if I'm Torrey Pines, Kensley Hennessy, that's her name. So Kensley Hennessy, she's a Colorado commit. She's pretty darn good for Cathedral Catholic. So I think she's going to be a key X factor. So I think for Cathedral Catholic, they definitely have the talent. It's just that, can they keep up with Torrey Pines, who has Finley Kristowiak leading the way at setter? She's committed to Penn State, and I think Penn State can maybe use her. So some more high school girls volleyball matches to watch for. Thursday, you've got Redondo Union at Los Alamitos. This one's going to be a fun one. I think this one is not for anything Redondo should overlook. Los Alamitos is playing great volleyball, And Los Alamitos has another big week because they played Marina on Tuesday. I'm going to be there to PA announce. Even though Marina is dinged up, Los Alamitos cannot overlook them. That one has trap game written all over it. And then Los Alamitos playing Redondo Union. That's going to be a very fun one. Last year, the Griffins took down the Seahawks in the non-league matchup in the teams only meeting. And then in the CIF Southern Section Division I playoffs, the Seahawks got the better of the Griffins. So this one is kind of the rubber match, especially since both teams didn't meet one another in the AmKang tournament, but we shall see what happens. And then on Friday, you have number 2 Sierra Canyon also on Thursday, you have number 2 Sierra Canyon at number 10 Torrey Pines. And Sierra Canyon also plays Cathedral Catholic. They play 4 matches in 4 nights. And man, those are some good teams because they've got Redondo Tuesday, Chaminade Wednesday, no, not Chaminade Madonna, Chaminade of West Hills. They've got Torrey Pines on Thursday, and then Friday they've got Cathedral Catholic, which, God, that's just a lot of volleyball for a little team from Chatsworth. But this Sierra Canyon team is not one to back down. So I think for Sierra Canyon, this is going to really challenge them this week. But if they can come out 4-0, they're the real deal. Anyway, that is that for the high school girls volleyball matches. There were no notable commits that happened, but I will also leave you on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Ireland Real did make a official visit to Texas this past weekend. What will come out from her? You'll have to find out when it comes to her Instagram page. But that'll do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday. I appreciate you all. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. In 22 more days, aka 3 weeks from tomorrow, Set Point will be turning 6 years old, which I think is awesome. But also, as a quick little side note, I'll probably be doing Set Point a little bit earlier, probably at like 3 p.m. or 3:30. I'll probably shoot for like 3 p.m. next week, just because I do have other plans on Monday as well, Monday evening, but I digress. But for everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, and I will see you probably on Sunday for the Laguna Beach Open. Have a great week, everybody. Peace and blessings.